Christmas Carol in 4 staves. Stave 1. Marley's Ghost. Marley was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon the exchange for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Not that there's anything particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to consider a coffin nail the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade. The wisdom of our ancestors is in the simile, and my unhallowed hands shall not disturb.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
Is it the chance and hope to which you're referring, Jacob? I think I'd rather not.
Without their visitations, you cannot hope to shun the past.
I am the ghost of Christmas past. Long past? No, your past. The things that you will see with me are shadows of the things that have been. They will have no consciousness of us. Rise and walk with me. It would have been in vain for Scrooge to plead that the weather and the hour were not adapted to pedestrian purposes. The bed was warm and the thermometer a long way below freezing, that he was clad but lightly in his dressing gown, nightcap and slippers, and that he had a cold upon him at that time. The grasp, though gentle as a woman's hand, was not to be resisted. Scrooge rose, but finding that the spirit moved to the window, he clasped at its robe in supplication. I am mortal and liable to fall. Bear but a touch of my hand there, and you shall be upheld in more than this. As these words were spoken, they passed on through the wall and found themselves upon an open country road, with fields on either hand. The city had entirely vanished.
Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of the dear Saviour's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth.
Suppose it should break in turning out. Suppose someone should have got over the wall of the backyard and stolen it while we was merry with the goose. Oh, all sorts of horrors were supposed. But oh, great deal of steam. The pudding was out of the copper. A smell like a washing day. That was the cloth. A smell like an eating house and a pastry shop next door to each other, with the laundresses next door to that. That was the pudding. In half a minute, back came Mrs. Cratchit, flushed but smiling proudly with the pudding, like a speckled cannonball, so hard and firm and blazing in half a quartern of ignited brandy and bedight with Christmas holly stuck into the top. Oh, wonderful pudding! Bob said, and calmly too, that he regarded it as the greatest success achieved by Mrs. Cratchit since our marriage. Indeed, as Mrs. Cratchit said, that now the weight was off her mind. Oh, I did have some doubts about the quantity of flour. Everybody had something to say about it, but nobody said or thought that it was at all a small pudding for so large a family. Any Cratchit would have blushed to hint at such a thing. But first, there was a game at blind man's buff, and I no more believe that Topper was blinded than I believe he had eyes in his boots, because the way he went after that plump sister, oh, it was outrage against the credulity of human nature. Wherever she went, there went he. You wouldn't go anywhere else. He always seemed to know where the plump sister was. If you'd run up to him and bumped into him, as some people did, he would have made a feint of endeavouring to seize you, and then sidled off in the direction of the plump sister. The spirit signalled to them that it was time for them to part. I've known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder, very fast indeed. But he was very light. Your father loved him so. There was no bother. No bother. Hello? What do you mean by coming in at this time of day? I'm very sorry, sir. I'm behind my time. You are? Yes, I think you are. It shall not be repeated, sir. I was making rather merry myself yesterday. Now, look here, my fine friend. I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I am about to raise your salary, Bob. Merry Christmas, Bob! A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you in many a year. He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived in that respect upon the total abstinence principle ever afterwards. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that truly be said of us, and all of us. And, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone.